Hi guys, we are here from Latitude Talent Studios. I'm here to talk about locations. Locations. Very important in the acting and modeling industry. Locations, okay? So we're gonna talk about LA, Miami, and New York City. Let me show you New York City. Is this gonna focus? No, okay, well whatever. Hello everybody. So today we're gonna talk about LA, Miami, and New York City. What is better for a new model / actor? So if you guys have any questions, please write them in the chat for me. I'm waving to all you. Wow, Las Vegas. We could talk about that too if you wanted to. We could touch on Las Vegas. How Las Vegas is very good for entertaining and showing not necessarily a lot of film per se, but a lot of like show business. Like how do I explain that? Cirque du Soleil is big in Las Vegas. Lots of different things like that. So let's see. We have a question of how do I get signed? That is a whole other topic that I have touched on in other webinars. Hey Melina, so we could totally talk about that too. Can you get an agency? Yes, you can get an agent. You don't work that much in Las Vegas. Well, yeah, Las Vegas is different. You're going to New York on September 7th. Can you go to a show to show your monologues? You can go to showcases, yes, if they're open. Oh my God, you just signed on Friday. Congrats, Jacob. Hello. So yeah, LA, Miami, and New York is what we're gonna talk about. So we're gonna talk about it right now. So I'm gonna start with Miami. Just because Miami is a location that I actually don't have as much experience in, but I do want to talk about it because it is important to learn about different cities in the country. So like, obviously there's a lot of different cities here in America. There is Miami, New York, LA, Seattle, San Francisco, San Diego, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Austin, Texas. There's a million cities in Texas. The Midwest, Chicago, all those kind of things. But the main cities we're gonna talk about today are New York, LA, and Miami. So when you guys think of Miami, what is the first thing you guys think of? Please write it in the chat so I can read it. Anyone want to write anything? Not right now. Okay, that's good, we'll keep going. So Miami, I was actually in Miami in December. And Miami was a really popular location for modeling and acting in the 80s, 1980s. And since then, why is it important now? Yeah, the beach, very good. Miami Beach, South Beach, yes, keep it coming, yes. So it was a really big deal in the 80s. And since then, with the whole virus, party, we're gonna talk about that too. Partying again, yeah. Because of the virus, a lot of big companies and agencies have relocated because rents are so expensive here in New York and in LA that companies realize they can work from home. As we know, the remote working situation, WFH, is a really big deal with Slack and Zoom and everything being at our fingertips and everything being easy, right? So a lot of big companies have said, you know what, let's pay cheaper rent, keep our offices open, maybe do a hybrid model of like 2 days a week on and off, or when you work from home as well. Because supposedly the studies have shown that a lot of coworkers and employees are actually very productive from working from home. So these companies have decided they want their employees to be happy and they want them to work from home and have spend time with their kids and all of that, right? But they also want to be able to have, thank you, nice lipstick. They also want to be able to have the community and the outreach and the in-person contact, right? So Miami is in Florida, obviously. It is very sunny all the time. It's a lot about image centric. When I visited in December and was looking at some properties, I noticed that a lot of the pools were not that deep. And I was like, oh, I go to pools to go swimming, not really to take photos. I mean, obviously taking photos is a bonus, but I'm a huge beach person, not really a pool chlorinated person. I grew up at the beach. So I noticed that and I asked one of the realtors and I was like, hey, why are all of these pools so shallow? Interesting, shallow. And they told me, and they were like, oh, they're shallow because they're not really made for swimming. They're more made for like influencers taking photos with their drinks or their bikinis or their outfits. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So not only is the place known for like image and partying and modeling and all of that, but literally the construction, the real estate is made for people to take photos. And I was like, wow, That's crazy. Hello, Gabby. That's like crazy that they actually made the city for people to take photos. So that tells you a lot in itself. It's very image centric. It's a lot about, there's a lot of cool colors there. Like there's a lot of Cuban influence, lots of Cuban people there, lots of Latinx community and culture. So like it's kind of like lots of pastels, so bright colors, you know, compared to New York, where it's not as bright colors. A lot of people wear black. There's a lot of muted colors, lots of grays, you know. I like to wear colors and stand out, you know, and pop, like lipstick or pink or whatever. Like today I was actually wearing all black, but I had really bright sneakers, so it was fine. But yeah, so the Cuban culture, so if you are a Latinx, Latino actor or model, Miami might be a good place for you to get started because there's a lot of demand for you. But then there's also the question is it oversaturated? And that's also a question you have to think about. Like you don't want to be just another blonde, blue-eyed girl in LA, you know, or another person of this weight and this ethnicity and this look and this personality type maybe in Miami. But we have to remember that every person is their own person. As I always say in these webinars, you are uniquely you and no one else can be you except you. Like that's the famous Oscar Wilde quote. And that's very important because even though someone might look like you and sound like you and have the same height as you and the same ethnicity and the same eye color and skin color, they're still not you because they don't have that unique personality that you bring along with your physical attributes to the table, right? Okay, I don't know what this guy was saying. But anyway, so there's a lot of plastic surgery in Miami. Like, I don't know if you've heard of, there's like specific Miami type of procedures. In New York, we don't really have as much plastic surgery, and in LA, there is a lot of plastic surgery. So you have to realize that you're kind of living in like an Instagram worthy type vibe, if that makes sense. Like you're gonna meet a lot of people who are doing things for the gram, you know, we're doing things because they want to get viral, they want to become famous. They're not really doing it because they love modeling and acting. They're not doing it because they want to pursue this in the long run. They're doing this because they want to make money quickly and maybe be on reality shows, for example. Now I'm just comparing these three cities to each other, so New York, LA, and Miami, so we get a sense. I'm not saying anything is better or worse. I'm just trying to give you the facts based on someone who lives in New York and is very much a supporter of New York, but you know what I mean. So yeah, the plastic surgery I bring up because if you are going to do certain ads for modeling and acting, you want to make sure that you have a very strong sense of self. And that goes with any industry. That goes, well, especially this industry, but that goes especially with Miami and LA, but also with New York, but more so because you don't want to be comparing your body type or your skin type or whatever to other people you're in competition with. And that's really hard to do in today's society, where we literally are bombarded with images of people who are selling us do this, do that, flatter stomach, bigger booty, smaller waist, clearer skin, tanner skin, but lighter skin. It's very confusing, and honestly, it's all marketing, and it's all part of like, you know, making money with marketing, capitalism, and all of that. And that's fine because that does make the world go round, and we are an industry where you are literally going to be modeling products. But you want to make sure that you're holding yourself, hello Danny, you want to make sure that you're holding yourself true to yourself, meaning like if you don't want to get plastic surgery and you're in Miami, you might be tempted to, or in LA, but you remember that, oh, that's not what I want, I'm not going to do it. If you do want to do that, that's fine, it makes you happy, you do that, that's all great. But I just want you to know that when you move to a different city, like these three, you want to know the kind of people that you're going to be around, the community, the culture. The culture is what it comes down to. The culture is, oh, I don't like that part of my body, let me go get it fixed, instead of like going to the gym or something, you know. So it's a different mindset if that's not what you're used to. I mean, if you're from like the Midwest, from Kansas or something, right, and you're just, you know, you're not used to like seeing different people, from different ethnicities, and you go to a city, cities are gonna be full of all different types of people, which is amazing. That's why I love cities. It's so diverse, especially here in New York. So like Miami has a lot of Cuban people, and LA has a lot of Mexican people, and New York has a lot of Puerto Rican and Dominican people. So that's just something to be aware of if your ethnicity, if you're a Latinx actor or model. We're here in New York. You want to remember that so that when you go, you're aware of how many people are gonna look like you when you go. right? So if your industry is really hot right now for like Latin actors, like okay, In the Heights film that was just released this past year, that was originally a Broadway show, it's all about the Heights here, Washington Heights here in New York, Uptown Manhattan. And there's a lot of great Latin culture there. There's Dominican, there's Peruvian, there's Puerto Rican, but it's actually really saturated to be Dominican. So let's say they were casting actors, and they actually did cast actors that were not all Dominican. They were also Puerto Rican. They're also different things. So if you are one of these ethnicities and you saw they were casting in New York, you might want to like jump on that opportunity and like, you know, submit for that role, even though you don't live in New York, because you could get flown there and you could film there and it could really be great for your career. So I'm just saying, you want to know your type and know which city might be better for your type based on what the industry is wanting right now. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what's tricky about now. Like, you know, if you are blonde and blue-eyed, more of the white Caucasian, it's not necessarily harder to be cast, but the industry is actually wanting to diversify more so. So they're looking for more minority talent as opposed to majority talent, which is what the industry has been. I think we need a balance of both, not having too much of one or the other. But of course, that's my opinion, and I definitely want to include everybody. I like to see everyone on stage, everyone on camera. Like, if I'm going to see a representation of this country, which is America, I don't want to just see blonde people. I want to see blonde people, but I also want to see blonde people. I want to see people who look like me. I want to see people who look like Shakira. I want to see people who look like Beyonce. I want to see people who look like Ali Wong. You know, I could keep going. But the point is that I want to see diversity in the way that the industry now wants to see diversity, which is a great thing. So if you're going to go to Miami and you are Latin, I think it would be great. So that's my opinion. Obviously, this is all my opinion because it's a webinar, and this is my webinar. So here we are. Okay, so you have to drive in Miami. Remember that. So if you don't know how to drive or have a car or have a license, let's start there. You're gonna have to change and get that together because you need to be able to drive. There are like some buses or whatever, but people drive in Miami. Like here in New York, people don't really drive as much. Like we take the train, we have the MTA, which is, you know, it's up and down, but we use it because we don't have a choice. Like it's actually super inconvenient to drive in New York City, where it's super convenient to drive in LA and in Miami. Like in LA, you need a car. Like you might need a car more than you need a car in Miami. But in Miami, you need a car too. Miami has it's really cool. The districts, they have like different neighborhoods like Venice and Brickell and all these different places. So you also want to figure out which neighborhood like would suit you. Also based on income. Like if you don't have the income to live in a really expensive neighborhood and you're gonna live there with no furniture, that's up to you. But you have to remember, you're gonna be spending a lot of money in this career for headshots, resumes, printing, business cards, websites, submitting, emails, etc., footage, editing, oh my goodness, apps, literally the list goes on and on, networking events. So you wanna make sure you're not spending all your money on rent. And this is where it comes down to like being an adult and all that, and like figuring out budgeting and figuring out how much you can spend, when you can spend it, all that kind of stuff with the industry. Because like, you're your own business and you gotta make sure you have enough money to support yourself and be your own business, right? So, okay, I think I talked a lot about Miami. I'm gonna move on. So that's Miami, and I'd say that it's the most affordable option out of the three of Miami, LA, and New York. And I'd also say it is the hottest weather-wise and the most consistent weather. Because LA does get a winter, but Miami doesn't really, like their winter's still like warm, you know. Like when I visited LA in January, I stayed at an Airbnb, and my Airbnb host, it was like 64 degrees out, it was January. But it was like super warm compared to New York. And my Airbnb host was like, oh, do you want to put on the heat? It's 64 degrees. And I was like, you put on the heat for 64 degrees? That's funny. Because here in New York, when you have a radiator, you live in like a pre-war apartment building, your radiator doesn't turn on until it's 55 degrees. Meaning you don't have the heat on unless it's 55 degrees. So like the fact that he could put it on when it's 64 degrees, I was like, wow. Oh my God, hello, Clara. So Miami, most affordable, sunny, great for Latin cultures, image, and could be good for modeling and acting, colorful, pastels, that kind of stuff. Okay, cool. And yes, it's known for partying. So like if you want to be a bottle girl, if you want to do influencing with that kind of stuff, that could totally be your thing. I mean, that's a thing everywhere, but Miami is like known for it. Okay, let's move on. Los Angeles. So Los Angeles, City of Angels, you know, next to Compton, all these things like, you know, Dre, a lot of people from LA. Also Pitbull loves Miami, he's Cuban, there's another side note. But LA, you know, LA's got Hollywood. LA is where all the movies have been historically really made. I mean, New York has changed a lot in the past few years, but if we really want to get specific, LA has been the like pumping, the factory of all of the movies you basically have seen, most likely, unless they're filmed off location, right? So LA is also image-centric in the way that Miami is, but in a different way, if that makes sense. So in the way that Miami really praises diversity in terms of Latin communities, LA really praises the blonde look, the blonde. So it's a very different kind of image, but it's similar in the way where they do support, they are like, okay, let's get plastic surgery. Okay, everyone wants to look this way. We want to look, it's very much like, you know, we want to look good, because in LA, as opposed to Miami, LA has really, like, LA is built on the industry of the entertainment industry. Miami has an entertainment industry. New York definitely has an entertainment industry, but New York has every industry except farming, but we have it upstate. New York has the finance, we have the financial district, the fashion district, which I'm in right now, the theater district, real estate capital, you know, the list goes on and on. And LA is these things too, right? But when you think of like Wall Street, I don't think of LA or Miami, I think of New York. When I think of real estate, I do think of New York, and I also think of LA and Miami. But when I think of movies, like Hollywood, silver screen type of thing, I think of LA. Studios, they have all the studios. They have the, you know, Studio City, they have like the little like fake, it's like a studio, you know, it's like their little buildings that are like schools, or they're now an office building, or they're a barber shop, or they're a studio, or they're a bedroom or a living room. You know, they have studios. Whereas here in New York, we don't really have that many studios. We more film on what's actually real. So like we will rent out an actual house or apartment and film there, instead of creating a studio and just switching it up. You know what I mean? What kind of trendy weightlifter? Okay. I don't really understand the question. Can you reword that, Christine, please? Yes. So LA, it is going to be a lot of traffic. You have to be aware of that. I hope you like to drive. If you don't, you should move to LA. Yeah, they have Uber, okay. But if you want to take your transportation in your own hands and be in control, you should drive. But then you're not really going to be in control anyway, because it's so trafficy. They have the freeways. You spend a lot of time, they're like a highway. Spend a lot of time there. They have great Mexican food because they're really close to the border. People literally go like across the border to get cheap groceries in Mexico, and I'm like, wait, that's so cool. I wish I could do that. People are known to be fake. I never lived there. I've only visited, just like I've only visited Miami, but that is a thing. In the way that the Atlantic Ocean is a little warmer and less rough, the Pacific Ocean in LA on the West Coast is rough and cold. So if you want to go swimming all year round, probably not. It is really beautiful though. Like LA looks and feels like a movie. Like when I was there, I was like, wait, is that real? Because everything I've already seen before in all the movies. So it was funny because I was like, oh my God, I feel like I've seen that in a movie. My friend was like, yeah, you probably have. And I was like, you're right. What? So LA had a lot of hiking, if you're into hiking. Lots of influencers live in LA. Lots of musicians, you know, lots of different things. They have nightlife, they're known for that too. But they are known for the entertainment industry, number one. Like that is what they're built on. That is what they're made. That is their main money pumping machine is LA. Entertainment, modeling, acting, entertainment, reality shows, all of the above. So no one really cares about your training in LA. I realize that. Like if you have theater training, they don't really care. Whereas in New York, they care about your training very much. Like one of the first things people are gonna look at when they see your resume is where'd you go to school, who'd you study with, how long have you been in school, what class are you taking right now. That's like literally just New York culture, like very serious. Like New Yorkers do not have time to like dilly-dally, whereas LA, the timing is very different. In LA, like people arrive more late to things. Now listen, I am totally generalizing, but I'm trying to give you like a little snippet of these 3 cities in a short webinar, so you guys can look it up later, visit for yourself, you know what I'm saying? People are really relaxed. I mean, it's the West Coast, so it's like a different country, literally. I actually made a video about New York versus LA. If you wanna look on my Instagram TV, it is there. It's called West Coast Realizations. I made it in January. It's pretty funny. It's like 4 minutes long. But yeah, so LA is gonna be a little more isolated actually. So in New York, we all take the train, we all take the subway, right? And in LA, everyone drives. So you're not really out in the public as much, you're not exposed to as many people. So in New York, I could be homeless sitting next to a guy who works on Wall Street on the train. And I could be meeting people on the train. I mean, people don't really talk to each other on the train, but if they did, when you bump into people, whatever, I would meet them very easily. Whereas in LA, I could live in Malibu Beach, one of the richest areas, and I could have a friend who lives in Compton, one of the not richest areas, and we could never interact. There's really not a commonality that would make us interact. There's not the subway, there's not, passing each other on the street, everyone drives. So it is a little harder to meet people in LA than it is necessarily in New York City. In New York City, there's no privacy. You're on top of each other. All the apartments are stacked. The walls are thin. You can hear everything. You bump into each other on the street. The sidewalks are not as big as you think they are to accommodate 8 million people. But yeah, LA is also huge compared to LA and New York. Like LA, when I went, I was like, wait, this is still LA? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, what? Because like in New York, we have the like 5 boroughs, 4 really, but whatever, we have the 5. And yeah, people are different who are like in Brooklyn and the Bronx, right? But you still could see each other on the train. Like people don't leave, they do leave their borough. Whereas in LA, people are like, oh, the traffic, it's gonna take me 3 hours to get all the way over there. So people are not really as motivated to do things that are not in their area. So if you did visit or move to LA, move there really, you wanna be as close as you can to the acting studios where the auditions are gonna be. Now, I don't know where the auditions are, to be honest. I don't really know. I've never lived there. But in New York, the auditions are pretty scattered, but mostly they're here in Midtown. They used to be before the virus and things were all online. But you want to be close because you don't want to be stuck in traffic. You want to be professional. You don't want to be late to your auditions. You want to know what you're doing, know what you're talking about. So that's important. Let me see what else I wrote. Yes, connections. So LA is, as I said, they're not as concerned with your training. They're more concerned with who you know. So I like to say that it's not necessarily what you know, it's who you know, but I don't always believe in that because I personally believe in that who you know might help you get in the door, but what you know will help keep you in the door. Now, do you understand what I'm saying? Does anyone have any questions based on that? If you have any questions, please write them down in the chat. I'll explain it. So, hey Sophia, how are you today? I have an audition planned for tomorrow too. Can you make it for my friend? Okay. Oh my God, thank you so much for reaching out to me. Yeah, I'm available. I will be there. Great. Okay. Let's say I book it. Yes, I booked it. So I booked it. Amazing. We love. So I booked it, but I don't have any formal training and I don't know what I'm doing. And it's my first time on set. So what am I going to do? Well, I'm still going to show up because I booked the job. But am I really going to do a good job? I mean, I don't really know. We'll find out, right? The point is that I'm going to go. And I might look like a fool not knowing what I'm doing on set. That's not gonna be good. I need to have some kind of training, some kind of class, some kind of workshop. Now, let's say this happens again. I'm like, yeah, I'll be there. I'll see you tomorrow too, but I have training, right? So I go and I know what I'm doing and everyone's like, oh my God, she's a professional. She knows what she's doing. She knows her lines. She knows how to move. She knows how to take directions. This is going great. Oh my God, she's on time. She knows what she's doing. Yes, we like her. We're gonna book her again. Yes. So the point is that who you know might get you in the door, but what you know is gonna determine if you can actually stay in the door or not. Does that make sense? So I think training is very important. Obviously, I'm a New York artist, so I'm gonna be biased and tell you that you should get some training. You should take classes. You should learn. You should be learning by doing, learning by educating yourself, reading, practicing, memorizing, recording yourself. There's a million different ways, But the point is that you want to be able to, when someone asks you where have you studied or who have you studied with, you want to be able to say, I've studied with this many people. I think that's important. It makes you seem like you're serious about your career and you're professional. Because if you look up any famous actor like Jack Nicholson, Meryl Streep, Morgan Freeman, and like even younger ones that are current now, they study. They have their undergrad, and they also went to like Yale Drama School, or they studied at like Stella Adler, or wherever. But the point is that they put in real time and money. Unfortunately, it's expensive, but you make it work. Payment plans, whatever. But I'm not wearing a wig. This is my real hair. Thank you very much. I think it's a compliment. I don't know. But yeah, so they put in real time and money into their training and their careers, and it actually did pay off because they never stopped going. They persevered, which is very important. Let's see what else I'm talking about LA. Yeah, only really one industry. Yeah, as I said, you need a sense of self, the nature, the beaches, great weather. Yes. So I would say LA compared to compared to Miami is more expensive, but there might be more opportunities because there's a lot of filming happening. Okay, let's move on to New York, the best city in the world. What? I'm biased. Obviously, I'm here right now, so I care. Okay, so New York City. New York City is here right now. It's been here forever. I mean, not a long, but like forever, I like to think the whole world revolves around New York. I mean, I don't really want to say that, but it does. Let's be honest. Like, when New York does something, everyone else is going to do it. New York just did the mandate with de Blasio, and now LA is doing it. Now San Francisco is doing it. We are a trendsetter. New York has every industry, like I talked about. We're not just focused on one industry. Like LA is just focused on like entertainment. Miami has a few more, but New York has finance, fashion, real estate, medical, acting, theater. No theater in LA. Want to bring that up. Nobody cares about theater in LA. People actually sometimes are annoyed by theater in LA, so just remember that. Just know that if you go out there. New York is very fast paced. We don't have time to dilly dally. People, it's the most expensive city out of this list. New York, people have to hustle. Like that's the culture. Like you have to have a job, and if you don't have a job, I don't know what you're doing. You're living off your savings, or you have some kind of trust fund or some kind of arrangement. I don't know what's going on, but good for you. That's great. Honestly, one income is really not enough to support yourself here in New York, so it is very expensive. The rent is so expensive. Why? I don't really know why. It just is. The rent supposedly got gone down with the virus, but are they going back up? I don't really know. So in New York, with the acting and modeling industry, you will have a side career, meaning like a restaurant job or catering or a brand ambassador or babysitting or dog sitting, dog walking, pet sitting, whatever it is. And there's no shame in that. Like, you need to respect your side hustle in a different kind of way that you respect your main career, which is the modeling and acting, right? Meaning you have to have a job where there's flexibility enough for you to be able to say, I can't come to work today, I have to go to this acting role or this modeling photo shoot or this go-see or this audition. But you have to be able to know that there's always other opportunities, which is crazy. Like, there's other side jobs. Like, there's so many other side jobs. But the industry is small, so you don't want to become undependable and look bad. Very important as well. So you're going to have multiple streams of income. No one really has one job. If they do, they're probably corporate, and they're comfortable, and they have a salary, and they have insurance and all that, and benefits. But if you're going to become a creative, which you are, obviously, if you're tuning into this webinar or you're interested in it, you have to be ready to be flexible and be adaptable with the circumstances. Like, okay, so the virus shut down a lot of things. What are we gonna do? We're gonna do things online. Okay, let's do online webinars about learning instead of doing in-person classes, or let me become a live streamer on this one app, like this one called Beagle Live or something. I don't really know about them, but there's different ways you can make money. You can do a lot of user-generated content, UGC, which is like, oh my God, I loved this napkin. I want to review it. And then you would review it. So then you would talk about that, and you would record yourself. So there's lots of different things you can do in terms of your skill set. In New York, everyone is their own person. Everyone's accepted that way, and I really like that. You can be crazy weird, and everyone's gonna be like, what? They're just be like, okay, cool, you're in New York, so you blend right in with all the crazy weird people. And that's fine, because people don't really judge you like that. I feel like maybe in other cities, if you acted like the way you acted in New York, people might be like, oh, I don't know about that person. But here it's like, oh, cool, we welcome you. We're all weird and cool in our own way. We have modeling, we have New York Fashion Week, we have photo shoots, we have the runway, we have so many different things. In acting, we have film, we have TV, we have theater, we have shows we're filming Billions, we're filming Gossip Girl, we're filming High Maintenance, we're filming Power, we're filming so many different things. We have downtown theater, we don't just have Broadway. We have weird experimental theater on like East 4th Street and like 99-seat black boxes. We have Broadway, we have The Lion King, we have Wicked, we have Jersey Boys, we got all that. So it's like, we really have a lot here in New York. And yeah, you can talk about competition and how like, oh, it might be more competitive, but honestly, there's more work to be had in New York than there is in LA, and that is a fact. Like, there are more jobs to have in New York than there are in LA. So I don't really know which one would you say would be more competitive, let's say, but I will say, that in New York, they're not really always going for one type. Like in let's say Miami, it's more like, you know, Cuban culture, Latinx. LA, a lot of like blonde people. I mean, there's a lot of different ethnicities there too, I'm just saying. And in New York, it's more about like the melting pot, you know? It's all about who is here. Like if you want to get some weird food from a Western African country, you're gonna find it here in New York. I mean, our tacos are not gonna be as good as LA, and our Cuban foods, our croquetas are not gonna be as good as Miami, but you will find that weird eccentric little country that you didn't know existed that's here in New York and has their own little community. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of community to be had here in New York, like whether that's your fitness community, whether that's your acting community, whether that's your like, I don't know, influencer community, your nail community, whatever it is. So that kind of stuff. New Yorkers are very real. We can be seen as rude. The city can be seen as rude, as like, oh, people don't have time to talk. And honestly, it's not really about rude. It's more about respect and timing. Like if you're asking for directions, I will give you directions. We will give directions. But we don't have time to stop and say, how are you? And compliment you. And sit down, have a coffee, and give you directions. We're gonna be like, okay. Looking for the A train? You're gonna walk over there and make a right. Oh, you couldn't hear me? Well, I don't have time to turn around, so you're gonna have to figure it out. Use Google Maps. That kind of thing. Like we love you and we care about you, but we don't have time to sit down. Whereas in LA, they're like chilling, you know? They're like, hey, what's up? We're chilling. Miami is like, I don't know how they are, but they're interesting. Hustler lifestyle, it's ultra expensive. Literally like a sandwich is like $15 for no reason. It's sad. But you don't have car insurance. You don't have liability. You do not have a premium, a car premium, whatever. Oh, also most of the city in New York is renters. Everyone rents. Hardly anyone buys. It's so expensive, and it actually weirdly somehow makes sense to rent, which is weird. In LA, people rent, but they live in houses, whereas here in New York, people do not really live in houses unless you're like in Queens or something. Or Staten Island, people really do live in apartments, which is like apartment cultures, like small. You get used to living in a closet. If you're claustrophobic, you probably shouldn't live in New York. It might be hard to take the subway and to like be in your closet apartment. The square footage is crazy. Like you're literally gonna spend however much money for like an inch. And you're like, oh my God, I can fit so much. And you really learn to make it work. You're really great with making it work. You're amazing at like figuring out how you can have a bed and a desk and a dresser and a chair in a closet of a room. So it's pretty cool in that way. You're very adaptable and resilient. Every opportunity, and as Frank Sinatra said, he said, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. Of course. I'd say it's easy to meet people in New York. You can meet a lot of different people, random people. Like I have friends who are not actors. I'll tell you about my friends. It'll help you understand who lives in New York. So I have, well, I guess she's from New Jersey. I have a friend who's a lawyer. I have a friend who's in corporate, like 9-to-5 office job. I have a friend who's a doctor. I have a friend who's a delivery boy. I have a friend who is an occupational therapist. I have a friend who's a model. I have a friend who's an actor. I have a friend who's an agent. I have a friend who's a casting director. I have a friend who works in production in terms of acting. I have a friend who works for nonprofits. photographer friends. The point is that there's a very diverse group of people, whereas in LA, when you meet someone, they're probably going to be an actor. They're like, hi, what do you do? I'm an actor. Great, let's add you to the list of all the other actors I met today. Nothing wrong with that. You just got to know what kind of people are there. In Miami, someone might be a fitness influencer. They might be an actor or a model. They might be a bottle girl. You know, this is all things in New York too, but in New York, there's going to be a little more diversity in terms of ethnicities and in terms of professions too. So you want to keep that in mind. So honestly, all the cities are great, New York, LA, Miami. It depends on you, your goals, where you see yourself, where you fit in, what your type is, what's hot in the industry right now. Like a lot of companies have moved to Austin, Texas. I don't know anything about Austin. I know they have barbecue there, Texas. I can't really speak on it, but I just know that it's become a thing as Miami has. So I'd say most affordable Miami, second LA, and third New York. New York is the most expensive, I'm not gonna lie. Does anybody have any questions that I can answer in the chat? Let me know. I will give you like a minute to ask any questions, and then I will close up. So let me know. I hope this was helpful. Waiting for questions. These emojis are very interesting. A lot of people are tuning in. This is great. We have a lot of people in. Make sure to follow me under my name, which I will write in the chat. I'm also gonna post my name on here. Did it work? I think it worked. Okay, does anybody have any questions? Plus size modeling is a whole thing. Yes, Park Fabi. You can check that out. I have a whole webinar about that. Okay, great. So nobody has any questions? I'm going to log off. This will be available on YouTube within a few days, very soon. So we'll see you soon. Wow, the numbers are going up as we speak. What's going on? I'm in New York. Wow. Oh my God, they're really going up. I'm literally watching them go up. Wow, this is crazy. I've never really seen this like this. It's very interesting. Thank you so much, Dwayne. No more questions? Okay, we're good. See you later. Bye. Thanks for tuning in.